Hi everyone, this is the third video of the Beamer course. So in the previous video, we saw how we could how to get started with the presentation. We saw how to change the theme of the presentation as well, and like how to modify, how to make it looking a little bit more professional. And now this is the third video. So in the third video, I'm going to show you how to change the text size, how to add list to your Beamer presentation, how to divide the text in columns, how to add a picture and tables. So I hope it's not going to take too long. So first thing first, I forgot to show you in the previous video because it was about themes and aspect ratio, how to change the text size in your Beamer presentation. So if you want to do that, is super simple. So you can find here at the top in the document class where we set the aspect ratio. Let me actually increase a little bit more. Okay, now it should be fine. So we want to change that to a new font size. So let's change it to 18 point. So you just have to type the number and the number and the font size, and that should do the job. And let me recompile it. Okay. Sorry, I'm just having a little bit of an issue. Okay, apparently you couldn't put 18, you just have to put say 17. I think it personally looks a little bit too big, but I just wanted to show you how to change the font size. So let's revert it back to the default one, which I believe is 12 point, and let's recompile the file. So I think it looks much better like this. And so let's get started. So let's add a list. So you have two type of lists. So let's go a little bit down. So we have our table of content here. We have introduction. Let's go to this is our first slide in the background. So this is the text of our first slide. So here we are. So let's add an ordered list. So we can add begin and we can add a list by just simply typing itemize. As you can see, Overleaf is quite smart. We have auto completion, and we can type first element and then enter. You need to put item, the key, and then we can second element, and then we compile it, control enter, and we get our bullet point list. So it is bullet point and we don't have the number, so 1 and 2. If we want to add number, instead of begin itemize, we can use begin open curly braces and enumerate. Okay, so now again we can add our first item and second item in here. We compile it again, as you can see, control enter. We compile it. In this case, is going to be a list with the numbers because it's enumerated. Okay. If you want to add a list inside a list, you can just copy the begin itemize and just you don't have to indent it. I like to indent it, and you can do that by pressing selecting the text and pressing tab. It's going to work anyway, but I think it's just neater when you read it. And first sub element and second sub element. So if you do that, you're going to see that now you have a list, and it's not indented because I've indented it like this. So if you go back and you recompile, it's because we have one itemized inside another one. So it's going to move one level down. Okay, and same thing you can do it with the enumerate. Of course, there are more things that you can change. I just want to show you the basic, and probably just if you want to, please just write a comment in the description, and then I will be able to address your comments and maybe create a new video if you want to see an additional feature. Or maybe let me show you how you can change the markers. So if you don't want to, instead of having numbers, you want to have Roman numbers, you can just put a bracket here and then put I, a capital I. So in that case, you're going to have Roman numbers, Roman numerals, if you want to. But if you want to have another sublist, so as we did before, so let me just copy this, and we want to have sub items. So here we are. So in this case, we don't want to have the capital I, but we want to have it lowercase. So Control Enter, and we are going to have our indented enumerated list with the Roman numerals. Okay. So again, you can change that. You can change this behavior by wrapping this with a parenthesis, and you're going to have the element into a parenthesis, and so forth. There are a lot of things that can be changed. I'm just scratching the surface here, but I can create another video later on specifically on lists if there is a need and if you want to learn more. Another very interesting thing that I want to show you is how to subdivide text into columns. As you can see here right now, we have a lot of empty space, but let's say that we want to have, so let's copy, of course this is not going to make much sense, but we want to add a lot of text in this slide here, slide 4 out of, so now we have our text, which is very nice here. So the only thing is that we want to have two columns. We want to have one first column here, and we want to have a second column on the other side. So there are a little bit, so let's say instead of background, we say use columns. So you can actually, and let's change the slide title here from background. We can say to use lists. I will upload this code on GitHub, so you can then copy and paste it if you want to, and you can just copy and paste the part that you need and just find the link in the description below. So let me compile it. Now we have use columns. So if you want to add columns, you have two kind of ways that you can do it. First, we always need to start with begin, and then we begin the columns. Okay. And we need to add a end. Okay, so as we have end frame here, we need to have end columns. And if you're not familiar with Beamer, just maybe have a look at my first introduction video, and you should find the link in the description, or just look into my channel. Again, I like to have things a little bit indented, so it's kind of easier to follow along, at least in my opinion. So we have added the columns, but now we haven't specified, so we haven't added this text inside a column itself. In order to do that, we need to add this other column. We have added the columns itself, so these now can hold columns, but we haven't added the column itself. So we need to add the column, and we can specify inside the curly braces what is the width of our column. And in this case, we're going to use a very useful command, which is text width. Text width. So in this way, we have our column, and we don't want to specify a value because that could change if we change the aspect ratio of the presentation. So we want that Beamer automatically calculates the width of the slide. So Beamer knows the text width that he can use. So where the text width where the text can fit here on the slide, and we want to specify that this column has to be half of it. So as you can see, we have added only one column, so this column will be by default in the center of the slide. But that's not exactly what we wanted, so we wanted to add two columns. So if you want to add two columns, let me just change a little bit the text. This is an example, and let me cancel this. So we copy. Okay. So now we're going to have two columns, and each column, that's probably not a good example of the text because it looks like we have three columns, and I want to make the text wider, so I've just added more text. So yes, that should work. Of course, you will not have this problem because you actually will have text which makes sense. And we have actually two columns. So we have one column here and we have a second column here. So that comes very handy. And if you want to, so as you can see, let's say that here we have much less text. So this column, perhaps we don't want to have it which is the same width as this one, because here we have more text. So that's super simple as well. So we can increase the width of this one. Of course, the sum of these two numbers has to make 100, because otherwise we are going to have an overflow. We're going to use more width than what is available. But doesn't, I mean, it has to be lower than 100. And now we have two columns in our slide, and they're more or less the same height. Okay, so just a note here, you don't have to put any symbol in between, so just the number and then the text width. Okay, to get the same behavior but just a little bit more code, you could have also done the following. So you could have actually begin column, and then of course if you do begin you need to do end column, and the last thing that you need to specify, okay, the last thing that you need to specify is what is the width of this column. So again 0.35, and then we have text width, and let's just copy some text from here because by mistake I just cancel the previous text. So let me actually change it like this, and let me recompile. Okay, so there is an error. So I guess, so begin columns. Okay, so if we want to do this, you have to do it in both columns. So, I mean, I just want to show you, because if you come across some other, just other examples, and you see it this way, okay, so it's the same thing, but I just want to show you that you can actually start a begin column, and in this way or in the previous way, okay, or in the previous, you could have done that as well. So let me actually copy that text, because I will make it available on GitHub. So I'm going to copy it in this slide, so you have it as a reference. So you have both ways, and you can choose whichever you prefer. If it's just text, it's not going to change anything. Maybe it could have some issues if you are using figures, and we are going to play with figures just in a second. Okay. Here we are. So we are ending this column. So you have both examples. Okay, let's compile it again. Okay, so actually you can't use both in the same document. So I guess you will have to go with either or. So let's go with this begin column, because at least it's easier. It's actually easier like this, because you can keep track of where the column begins and where the columns end. Okay, and let's fix that back. So then we are done. So now we want to add an image. So I show you the list, I show you the columns, and we want to add a picture. So if you want to add a picture, again, is pretty simple to add a figure inside the document, and we are going to look at Unsplash. Unsplash is a very nice website because you can get a lot of free pictures, and they are actually very beautiful. So we're going to select this one, and maybe, of course, if you use their picture, it's nice to just put a reference and thank to them. So we are going to download this picture, which we have downloaded here. So what we need to do right now is to go here on click to show the file tree here on the side. If it was collapsed, just click on this button. And we are going to create a new folder because I think it's nice to keep the figure in a new folder. So we type figures, and inside here we are going to upload a file, and we're going to upload the file that we just downloaded. Okay, so let me open the download file here. So we upload the figure. Here we are. So now we can see the figure that we just uploaded, and we can go back here into the main text. So if you want to add a figure, we have to include a little bit of text and a little bit of comments. So let me actually just go back to the introduction, which now has no text, and let's import that figure. Okay, so I'm just copy and pasting here some text, but I will go through everything that we need to do. So first of all, another thing that is important that you do, I think, is going to be that we need to import a package, and we need to let me see. We just have to import a package for the figures. But let me actually go first through the code. So let me collapse this. So first we begin a figure. As we begin the column before, we begin a figure and then we end the figure. Then what we want to specify, let me actually go step by step, and I just want to show you first what you can do, and then eventually which issue we get if you don't put this extra comment. So we include the graphic. Okay, we need to specify the source folder. So let me try to keep it as simple as possible. So we do begin figure, and then we have to close this tag figure, and then we need to include the graphic. The graphic, where is located? Where we just created a folder called figures, and this is the name of our file, which let's rename it to figure 1, just because it's going to be easier to reference to this figure. So we call it figure 1. Okay, so let's compile this, and we most likely are going to get an error because no, everything is fine, so we don't even have to import the package. But as you can see, this is how our figure looks like, and as you can see, you can only see this top bit of the figure. Why? Because this figure is the size of this figure is very large, is way larger than our slide. So as we did before with the columns, we can actually specify what is the width of the figure that we want. Okay, so we had braces here, and we type width, and then as we did before, we say we want text width. Okay, but we don't want that the picture just gets shrinked on the x-axis, and then on the vertical axis is the same size as the original picture. We want also to keep aspect ratio. Okay, so let's run it again and see what comes out. So we are keep getting an error, of course, because I have a typo here. So let's recompile it and let's see what's going on. Okay, so we still have an issue. So now it's fine, and the picture is keeping the aspect ratio correctly, But then, as you can see, since our slide in a different ratio from the picture, we have our picture that is going beyond the slide. So we have resized it correctly on the horizontal axis, but we haven't resized it properly on the vertical axis. Okay, so we need to add also the height. Okay, and in this case, let's say 0.9 of the text. In this case, we want to have text okay, and then comma. So this case, everything should be fine because now we have resized our picture both on the x-axis and on the y-axis. Okay, so let's recompile it. There was a typo in the height. Perfect. So now our picture is properly resized in our slide. Okay. So if you want to add another figure, you can, and you can add another figure. So you just upload it here in the figures, and you can upload that. You can also do the same thing as we did before. So you can also add columns. Okay. So let's add another slide in the methodology this time. So we go here, we copy and paste all the columns code that we had above here. So now we have the text. So let's replace this text with the figure. And as I previously mentioned, everything now should be fine because width, the software knows that this is the width available of that column. Okay, so in this case, we are not going to need even the height because then the aspect ratio should be fine. So let's have a look how it's going to look like. So the picture, as you can see, the picture is very heavy, is a very high resolution picture, and consequently it takes a little bit longer to reload the file. But now it's fantastic. So we have added our slide here, and we have added our text. And I just want to show you that Beamer is very nice and smart because if you change this column width and you invert these two values, since here we haven't hard-coded a value, but we have say text width, the Beamer automatically is going to resize the picture for us. So that's extremely handy because if you change or if you add more text on the right side, then you can just simply, Beamer is going to sort everything out for you. And this is a big advantage compared, for instance, with PowerPoint. Okay, so the final thing, so we have added the figure, and the last thing that I want to show you is how to add a table. So I'm going to copy just some, one last thing that I haven't shown you, so is how to add a caption in this figure. So if you want to add a caption to the figure, after the figure, when you import it, we have 3 backslashes, and then we can add a caption, okay? And then we can say caption of the figure. If you add a caption, it could be that then eventually you have to decrease the height of the figure itself. It can happen that. It depends also how long is your caption, but not in this case because we had some space here at the bottom. So now we have added our caption of the figure, and everything looks all right, and everything is looking nice and neat. After you write a caption, you could also add another thing that I want to show you is that you can add apparently, yeah, it just we don't need to put no, okay. So if you don't put the the two, again, this was just for the space. So this was just to add to have the caption in a new line. So let's do that. So we have added a caption here. Okay, sorry. While I was talking, I forgot before here when I included the graphic. When I copied from this text here above, I forgot to copy begin figure, which is very important. Okay, So we just need to also copy begin and end figure here. So we wrap this statement and this include figure inside. So we have begin figure right now, and we have end column, and column of course has to be after the end figure. And let me just organize everything. Here we are. So now without any issue we can add our caption. So we wanted to have it in a new line, and then we add caption, and caption of the figure. Here we are. So now everything should be fine. Just before there was that error because okay, so now as you can see everything is fine. We get figure 1. Another thing that we could add is a label. Okay, so the label is the tag that we are going to use in the text to reference this figure. So I like to call it fig because it's a figure, and then we say coding. Okay, or you could actually even better, because this label has to be unique, so you can actually use the name of the file itself. So for sure it's going to be unique, and then here in the text you type figure, same line space, so no, you cannot go in a new line, and then you type reference, and then we refer to the figure that we just added is showing how we code. So let's compile that. And here we can see that there is a reference to our figure. Of course, now figure 1 and figure 1 because there is only one figure. But let's go in the figure above, sorry, where we had here, and we add also here a caption. In this case, we will have to change. I mean, this is a bad example because I'm using the same figure twice. Caption of the figure in the introduction. Caption introduction, and let's call it figure introduction. Okay, so now we have two labels and two captions. Now you will see that automatically this figure is now renamed figure 2, and in the code we have a reference to the right figure, so now it has updated to figure 2. Okay, final thing, I just want to show you how to add a table. So we add in the introduction, we add a new frame. Here we are, and we call it table. Okay, so as for the figure, we will have to wrap the table inside a begin and end table. So let's cancel this one. Instead of figure, we call it table. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit longer process, and I have actually a video on how to export tables directly from a pandas data frame, which I think is a game changer, because as you process the data, you can actually export the table directly with Python and upload it automatically. So Beamer automatically is going to update the value of your table. Okay, but let's start and let's try to do something. So it's a little bit annoying to type table manually. So, but let's try to do it. So we type tabular. Okay. So actually is already a little bit helping us. So overleaf. So it's helping us because it's giving us the main structure. So we wanted the table to be center. We begin the tabular, so we have only two columns for the moment. So let's see how it starts looking. Okay, so everything is fine. We have already a label, my label. We have already a caption. We have already a tag. So the only thing that we need to do is numbers. Okay, So we can add 10 and or let's say, I don't know, temperature, and we say 20 degrees, and humidity, we say 60. Okay, so now we have added our table, and we have temperature and humidity. If you want to add also an heading, let's say we say value, and then we have the n%, and actually we have variable and value, and then here we add horizontal line. And again, if you want to have an in-detail video of, maybe I can just make another video exactly how to, yes, so everything is fine, but okay, perfect. So everything is working. I just forgot the backward slash. So now you have your table, and again, you can add it to a column and so forth. So to recap, in this video, we have seen how to add list. So unordered list, an ordered list, how to change the labels in the list, how to add columns, how to add figures with caption, how to add tables, and how to add figures in columns, and how to reference table in our presentation. I hope you find this video useful. Check the link down in the description to find the source code, and please like and subscribe if you like the video, and leave a comment if you want to learn more, or if you want me to upload a new video about Beamer.